party, we like to party, party, party all night long. Party, party, we like to party, 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 never go home. Party, party, we like to party, party, party all night long. Party, party, we like to party, 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 never go home.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 12 of the Ball Talk Pod.
12.
Tonight, we're going to be recapping an unfortunate loss to the Golden State Warriors by the Oklahoma City Thunder. The All-Star Game rosters were finally announced, or at least the reserves. We'll be giving our reactions to those that made it, those that didn't, and kind of break down that format. And then going back to our segment, sooner or later, I got some things to ask Chris to get his opinion.
And I will answer them sooner or later.
Hopefully sooner. We can't have that long of a podcast.
No, let's make them wait for it.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be at the end. We'll see how long it takes for us to get there.
You'll have to wait for it regardless.
Yep. Starting off, Thunder lose 116-109. Shea scored 52 points and the Oklahoma City Thunder lost a basketball game. That's tough.
I don't care that he scored 52 points if we lost. And I know that's just like sour grapes, but like I think that he would feel the same way. He wants to win. He doesn't want to score a bunch. I mean, I'm sure he wants to do both, but I don't know. I went to sleep at halftime because we're up 10 and I thought, okay, it's gonna go well. So I don't know exactly how the tides turn, but obviously they turned. So give me a little insight how they turned. You're on mute. That's good. You're on mute though.
What about now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Defending your fandom, you are in a different time zone than normal now. So you'll get a pass for that one. I unfortunately stayed up and watched the whole thing thinking it'd be done and I could go to bed by like 11:30 Central Time. And it was basically midnight. But you watched the first half. Shea scored 23 points in the first quarter, which is the most points he scored in a quarter, I think.
I did, yes. Impressive.
Had 31 at halftime, which tied the most points in a half he's had, matching his career high that he set in the Jazz game last week when he scored his career high 54 points. That first half, I was like, there's no chance we lose this game. Like, there's no one on the Warriors team that can defend Shea. And that was still true. Like, that did not change.
Yeah,
the issue
obviously
is, I was looking at it today. You had Shea with 52. Dub had 26. He had a decent night. Isaiah Joe went 5 of 10 from 3, 17 points. Outside of those three, no one else on the team scored more than 5 points.
Yeah, that hurt. I in the first half, Hartenstein missed them bad. He missed a couple of those floaters he has in the center of the lane, short on both of them. And I thought, oh, that's weird. That's like he usually hits those, or gets closer. And then losing Kaysen and or did Kaysen
came back?
He did. Okay, but losing Alex Caruso, big bummer to see him go out again. So, but honestly, I was expecting to wake up with a win. I will say, I wasn't right.
Yeah, you mentioned Caruso and Queso got hurt. Caruso rolled his ankle on Jay Will's foot going into a timeout. It was in live action. It wasn't like he was walking off the court. He was able to walk off under his own power with how cautious they are with Caruso. He's had a couple hip injuries. It wasn't shocking that they didn't bring him back in. I kind of bet he's out a week just with how it's been with him. His energy, I think, was missed greatly in the second half last night.
In the second half, okay.
Not to say that he would have solved everything, but he would have at least been disruptive, maybe created some fast break opportunities off of deflections. So he was missed. You mentioned Hartenstein. He was 2 of 10 from the field last night.
Right. Really.
And was like being sat, or not even benched, but like Jay Will played a decent amount of minutes more than I think you would anticipate, because I think Mark was like, oh, Hartenstein doesn't have it tonight.
He He doesn't have it.
I mean, he still played 30 minutes. J. Will played 15. One of those was like a desperation heave. He was 2 of 10. I said one of them was in the shot clock. He had to jack up a 3. But still, he had 18 rebounds. So obviously he still impacts the game. But him not scoring, I mean, he averages 12 a game. If that's not there, that's tough. The biggest, that obviously hurts, but the biggest thing to me, especially, Shea got 52. The Warriors were able to slow him down a bit in the second half. When you look at Lou Dort,
a relative term.
Yeah, instead of 31, he scored what, 20, 21?
Yeah.
Really slow half for him. What stood out looking at the other role players, Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, Jay Will, Aaron Wiggins, Caruso, Kenrich, and Oos. How many threes do you think they combined for?
Made or shot?
Made.
The way you're asking the question, I'm going to guess it's shockingly low. So I'm going to say 0.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is what, I mean, the Thunder were up 10 at halftime. Andrew Wiggins hit a 3 to cut it to 10 at the halftime buzzer. And then they came out hot. They played with energy. They were definitely the enforcer, which is very rare to see against this Thunder team. And we made runs, like we got the lead back. It was back and forth. It wasn't ever like the Warriors were running away with it until the last minute. But if Dort's hitting it, if we hit 3 more threes at any point in this game,
what was our percentage?
23%.
Oh, it corrected. We've been shooting pretty well for the month of January.
Well, that's crazy. Is it's 23% with Joe hitting 5 of 10.
Right. He's shooting 50% by himself in January. So
yeah, and Shea and Dub both were 2 of 6. So, but
it would be really helpful if Dub could be like a 40% free throw or 3-point shooter.
Yeah, he was like approaching 45 last year. Obviously, his volume's up this year compared to last, and he's especially with Chet being out, has a bit more responsibility in table setting. With him coming back in a couple weeks, hopefully it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. I mean, you don't want to look at box scores, but Dub was a minus 18 and a plus minus. Because he was on the floor for all the runs. But
I'm going to blame that on Ousmane Dieng.
In the 6.5 minutes that he played?
I watched those 6.5 minutes. He is, like you said, the Warriors are the enforcer. He has never been the enforcer. Every time he is on the court, I feel like he is not tough enough, not big enough for the moment. I don't know.
Not physical. He needs
to be more physical, and he's too passive. And then you see all these G League highlights from him, and he is taking the ball to the rim, being really strong, and creating for him and his teammates. But maybe it's just a totally different game, and he's being asked not to do anything like that. But no, I will say I don't blame it on Jalen. I don't blame Jalen Williams plus minus on Ousmane, but it's just the people that Jalen Williams is asked to kind of bring along with him when we have Caruso out, and when that was at a time when Cason was hurt. You're asked to kind of bring along these guys that.
It's a don't sink. Just please don't sink. Like, just stay afloat if you can.
You can see where his plus minus is definitely going to take a hit there.
Yeah, and plus minus is not the tell all of anything. It's kind of it's a stat that really doesn't showcase impact as much as people might think. But I mean, Dub had 26, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. I thought he played well. Some people on Twitter, I mean, there was like one account that said that there were only 2 max contract players on the Thunder right now, and he was meaning Shea and Chet. And then, for anyone that doesn't know, Dub has like a personal photographer and a videographer that follows around. He does like
shouts out shots by JoJo.
Yep, we met him at that autograph signing at Dick's. He's a cool dude. Dub, we'll get into this later, but Dub got announced as an All-Star reserve tonight, and he went back to that tweet and quote tweeted it and said, maybe apologize to the individual in this tweet that's not mentioned and is an all-star. So he's keeping receipts, which I thought was funny.
I think shots by JoJo. He's a good follow. He's a true ride or die, which I really appreciate. Plus,
well, true ride or die, and he produces content for like he doesn't just do dub. He does like videos of the whole team.
Yeah,
travels with the team.
Yeah, we talked about it. He'd be like if we ever have guests, he might be one that
we want him on the pod. Absolutely.
That's our first dream guest, you know?
Yeah. We'll see if that works out.
But in that sort of vein of thinking, Thunder fans are insane. Especially, I guess it's just the visible ones on Twitter when they're talking about this team has lost less than 10 games. They've lost less than 10 games in a season where it's just we're going to have 2 all-stars and we have a third one coming after the trade deadline. It's unfathomable the kind of pressure that these people on Twitter who probably have never really played the basketball at a high level are talking about these players like they could do it or they know anything about what they're talking about.
It's also an 82 game season. Like, right. It's never going to be with how well we played against the Cavs, how well we played against the Celtics, the Knicks. This is the opposite of that, and that's fine. Like I was talking to somebody today about this. We beat the Knicks in Paycom. We were down early, halftime deficit, and then we came back. And I don't know if you remember, but Aaron Wiggins hit 4 threes and had an and one to get 15 points in the fourth quarter.
Do I remember? Yeah,
saved basketball once again. He was 0 of 6 the other night. I think that was the Dallas game. And then obviously he was one of the ones that didn't hit anything tonight. He was 1 of 5 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. He was a positive plus minus though.
Probably with Shea. Most of it's maybe Shea.
It's a make or miss league. Like that is the bottom line. Like the Warriors, they were hitting these like turnaround late second shot clock. Kyle Anderson was hitting fadeaways. Brandon Pajemski, who most Warriors fans on Reddit and Twitter want to just blow off the team because they're so sick and tired of him. He hits a step back, like the worst shot in basketball, a step back 2-pointer basically at the 3-point line and cashes it.
Right.
So it's just one of those nights. I mean, they're in the NBA, they're playing players that, every player deserves to be in the NBA. Like that's just how it goes sometimes.
It's just frustrating because like you're a fan of this team, but you're always talking shit. And I know that like they're whatever. But I feel like at this point you should just like really appreciate these people who are playing for a team that you love, who are playing a great season. And like you said, it's an 82 game season. They're gonna lose more games, and if we freak out about every loss like this, no one wants. It's a terrible environment to play basketball in. We should just support them and love them, and whatever happens is gonna happen. Because I think they're gonna go to the playoffs and have a lot of success, right?
Yeah. This doesn't change that.
And I guess we talked about this before, but college football is such a different beast. College football, or it used to be, now it's a little different, right, with the 12-team playoff. But college football, you couldn't lose a game. You couldn't lose a game, or you were never going to make a national championship, right? There are very few cases where a one-loss team made it to the college football playoffs, or before that, the BCS championship. So you had to live and die on every game. Everything was criticized. Every turnover, every third down was criticized in that manner, because if you lost one game, it was almost impossible to get to the national championship.
Every week was its own playoff series.
Right.
Like, basically.
And now with the Thunder being so good, a lot of those football fans are transitioning to basketball. And it's different in the NBA, where you don't have to win every game by 100 points to impress the BCS computer system so that you move above Arkansas, or you move above the, whatever. And it's just like, I think there is some reshaping of people's sports watching in a situation like that.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Royce Young, who was a reporter and then now works for the Thunder, tweeted out, the Thunder are 37-9. The franchise record, as we mentioned before, is 60 games won in a single season in Oklahoma City. And he said,
that's losing 22 games, by
exactly.
the way. And the Thunder have lost 9.
Like Royce tweeted out last night, one of my favorite things to say, if you picked OKC to go, let's say 61-21, which sets the franchise record for wins in the season and probably most likely gets you the number 1 seed, maybe in all of the NBA, that means they still need to lose 12 more times.
Right. Exactly.
12 times. Like they haven't even lost 12 times this year. They've lost 10 times this year.
And so they have to essentially double their lose records in the next half of the season, which I guess is exactly what you would expect, right? But it's still like, just have a little faith in this team and relax and enjoy the ride. Because, after Chet went down, I kind of thought this team was going to like fall back to like maybe
hopefully make the
4th
playoffs,
or 5th season,
be a top 6 seed, hopefully.
Seed. Yeah. There was a lot of, people thought maybe this is like, all right, next year we're going to push these expectations for the next year when Chet's healthy, when Chet's back, when we have a full team. But the Thunder were like, no, we're just going to keep winning, and we get to enjoy that. So you have to take the losses with all that enjoyment that we get from the team.
Exactly. I mean, I was telling people after Chet got hurt, we had won like 3 straight, and then lost to Dallas, and then lost to a Wemby-less San Antonio Spurs team in a NBA Cup, which is a made-up thing, group stage game. And I remember I looked at the schedule. Hartenstein was still out. We had not been given any update. And I'd sent out a text to several people, and I was like, we might lose 5 or 6 games in a row because of who we were playing. They had a big man that we probably couldn't match up with. And you could tell the momentum of that small ball lineup was fading out. Next thing you know, Isaiah Hartenstein's questionable, and we win 20 of the next 21 games.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know what? Timeout. Let's chill. This team's going to be the 1 seed in the Western Conference, and everyone's probably going to pick them to get out of the Western Conference. Not to say that's a great thing, but it's
knock on wood.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Everyone listening, knock on wood.
Yeah, please, wherever you are.
Reverse jinx.
Before we move on, I'll just touch on Steph wasn't like crazy last night. He had like 4 points at halftime. He ended up with 18 or 21. Hit some big threes. He was 5 of 10 overall. And then the biggest one, the original Thunder killer. This man walked so PJ Washington could run. Andrew Wiggins had 27 points. And he's just always gone off against the Thunder. There was a game, Carmelo Anthony's first year, or that year Carmelo and PG came to Oklahoma City. It was like the home opener, the second or third game of the year. Closely contested game with the Timberwolves. Carmelo hits a 3 to go up 2 with like 4 seconds left. Like, place was going nuts. I was there. Like, this team, we get like the clutch gene is there. They throw it in. Andrew Wiggins takes one dribble, half court heave, sinks it. They win the game. Like, just crushing. Like the original PJ Washington, truly. So he was back to his ways. It's funny. I was watching the All-Star selection earlier, and they were bringing up the Warriors, and everyone's like, yeah, what they did last night, not sustainable whatsoever. Like, everything went perfectly for them to pull out that game. So yeah, tough loss, not a great loss, one that you definitely don't want to lose. But every NBA team, regardless of bottom of the league or top of the league, there's these games where it's just like, I mean, we lost to a Wemby-less Spurs and last night against the Warriors,
a Luka-less Dallas team twice. So,
but we've then beaten a Cleveland Cavaliers team that's fully healthy without Chet or Hartenstein,
and a fully healthy Knicks team twice. Yeah,
like it's just how it plays out. And you know, I'd hate to be the Sacramento Kings on Saturday.
Oh my gosh! Plus, with all that drama with De'Aaron Fox essentially telling the Kings to trade him sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. That might come into play with a sooner or later situation.
But
So
so I watched on ESPN. Did you watch on ESPN or did you watch on
I watched on
FanDuel?
ESPN.
I cannot stand. Is it Bob Myers?
Yeah, he's
The
the former
guy.
GM of the Warriors.
I
It's the
cannot.
dumbest thing.
How can you let him do Warriors games?
He's
It's ridiculous.
referring to the team as we on the
Yeah.
broadcast.
Yes.
That should not be allowed. And they talked about the 2016 Western Conference Finals. They were down 11 going into the fourth quarter, and he said he turned to his assistant or whatever and said it's going to take a miracle. And then he said that miracle was named Klay Thompson. And that's what happened. And he brought that up, and it's like, this is not what I want to talk about. Not only that, Zaza Pachulia, who was a center for them for the longest time, like, we got in so many like tussles with him because he just roughhouses everybody. He was sitting courtside, so the vibes were just bad with the Warriors last night.
And yeah, that was another reason I was like, I'm just going to bed. I don't need to listen to this guy. I could have muted it, I guess, but I was just like, I'm not.
Yeah.
Don't really,
We'll see.
Don't really care to watch it. So
yeah, again, Thunder lose. They'll bounce back as they always do. We'll see if it's Saturday night in Paycom Center against the Kings. They start this big home stretch coming up before the All-Star break. Speaking of the All-Star break, let's roll into All-Star game roster reactions.
All-Star game talk. Oh, whoa.
So we already knew the starters. Those were announced last week. We knew Shea was starting.
Give me the starters, Ben.
So for the Western Conference, you have Shea, Steph Curry, Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James. So that one feels more like you got in because you're known as, like, you're one of the most popular players in the NBA, regardless of stats. Like, Steph should not be starting this year.
No.
And KD's missed a lot of games. LeBron's LeBron. Shea and Jokic are like the two that are like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
They're the two MVP front runners if they're not starting. I think there should be some. I think fans vote for them because they know who they are, right? And like you said, like, they're the most popular players. The All-Star game is a reward for how you're playing that year, not how popular you are.
You would think, but that's not how it's.
Well, no, it should be. What I'm saying is it should be, right? You shouldn't be rewarded just because. I feel like just because you've made like two All-Star, if you've made 3 All-Star teams, it feels like you're automatically just on the All-Star roster for the next.
Like, Shea's going to be a 10-time All-Star just because he's already started
twice. Yeah.
So we knew those 5.
But it should be
the top 5 best performing players
this year.
Agreed.
And so maybe the starter should be selected by
the coaches,
the peers and the coaches.
Yeah, but they never take it serious. Like, there's always like a couple players that get votes. Like, I remember like Poku, shout out Poku, would get votes just because people don't, like, the players don't take it seriously. But moving over to the Eastern Conference starters, this is a bit more players who you think would deserve it this year because of their play this year, not necessarily status. You have Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns from the Knicks, Donovan Mitchell from the Cavs, and then Tatum from the Celtics and Giannis from the Bucks. All those guys are having great years. Shockingly enough, they're like the younger group in this the Western Conference. It's a bunch of 36, 38, and 40-year-olds and Shea and Jokic. But we already knew those. None of that was that surprising.
Nope.
But I'll start with the Western Conference reserves. And this is in the order that they announced it on TNT before the game tonight.
Does the order have anything to do with who was selected first or anything like that?
I don't think so. The way it works, there are 7 reserves. And so I think they had 2 front court, 2 back court, or maybe it was 3 front court, 2 front court, 2 back court, and 2 wild cards, regardless of position.
Gotcha.
So this is in the order they announced it. I don't think that had to do with anything. But Anthony Edwards was the first one. That made sense. You could argue, I think he's, in terms of how they performed this year, he's the one that should have started over Steph. Um, he's actually even shooting a better percentage from three than Steph is this year. So he's a reserve. You have Anthony Davis, which was anticipated. He got hurt last night in the game, so we'll see if he actually plays. He might be a replacement kind of situation.
That definitely the Lakers would probably really want to
rest him,
sit out. Yeah,
but he always gets up for the All-Star game. I don't know why. He always has that vibe of like, okay, I'll be healthy for the All-Star game. Like that's his Super Bowl. One of the, I wouldn't say surprises, but James Harden made it. The Clippers are playing well, unfortunately, for the Thunder. But
I mean, he's been the only guy. He's kind of tried to carry that team, and I mean, them being a playoff team right now is a really big
not
surprise.
Just a playoff team, top 6.
Yeah, and that he is the one who's like kind of carried them there. I think he probably deserves a little bit of that. Yeah.
It was between him and Norm Powell. And so a lot of people thought Powell should get it. He's been scoring great for them. He stepped up big time. That's the first person Charles Barkley said when they were like, what surprises you? He's like, Norm Powell should have been.
I love Charles. He's so funny.
So yeah, James Harden makes it. Jaren Jackson Jr. for the Memphis Grizzlies, well-deserved. He's been the healthiest and most consistent Grizzly star. Ja's missed too many games. They're currently playing against the Rockets right now without Ja, but he's had a great year. That was
Ja's
definitely, yeah, but this one isn't like a long term. I think it's like a rest thing, like a injury management. But not surprised for him. That's his second. The one that I think is probably the biggest reach in a biased manner. Alperen Sengun made it for the Rockets. I think they felt that the Rockets had to get one all-star because they are second in the West, even though they're definitely more of like a collective team, more so than they have one or two stars.
Right.
You have Jalen Williams making his first career all-star appearance, which was awesome. He was the second to last one announced, so I was getting a little nervous.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but again, I don't know what order. It couldn't be by front. I don't know. And then rounding it out is Victor Wembanyama, making it, which was probably the least surprising pick of all. He's played great this year as a second-year player. So there's your Western Conference reserves. I'll read off a couple names to see if you think any of them should be in over any of these players.
Okay,
number one.
Okay, go ahead.
Kyrie Irving.
He's played really well. Honestly, sort of like the Steph stuff, the Steph and LeBron and Kevin Durant. It feels like he should be one of those guys that always gets selected, especially with what he's done in Luka's absence. I think he's played much better than Steph has, and has been a lot less injured than Kevin Durant has. So I think maybe over Steph, he probably deserves to be in there. I think.
Yeah, I think he wasn't up against Steph though. That was all media. The reserves is all coaches.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So taking out the starters,
pretty much. It's basically between him and James Harden.
I would give it to James Harden.
I think I agree. I think you could make a case for either side and be logical and not be that far off from.
I think if he was on the east side, he'd be a lock.
I would agree. And the Clippers are above the Mavs in the standings. So
right, that was sort of the defining factor for me too.
Yeah. And then the other one that I think is interesting, Domantas Sabonis, who is leading the league in rebounding, averaging like 21, 14, and 6 assists. Sengun's averaging like 19 and 10. I think, again, this comes down to record.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because if you're leading the league, and we'll get into it later, but Trae Young's leading the league in assists. He didn't make it last year, or 2023. Harden led the league in assists, didn't make it. So it's not like it's just stats, especially for the coaches. It's something we talked about with Dub. Coaches see so much of the small things that players do to impact winning, not just like, okay, who's scoring the most points,
who's
all that stuff.
Who's leading stats, yeah.
But I think in terms of individual player, I think Sabonis should have gotten in over Sengun. With the Rockets where they are and the Kings, the slow start they had, they fired their head coach. It's not. It makes sense, I guess. Like I don't have a huge qualm with it. Moving over, do you have any other thoughts on the Western Conference before we check in on the East real quick?
Just that I don't think Steph or Kevin should have made it.
That's definitely they were grandfathered in almost. So the Eastern Conference reserves, which I think there might be more of a controversy in terms of who made it. Starting off, you have Damian Lillard for the Bucks, Darius Garland for the Cavs, Evan Mobley for the Cavs. They get 3 total. Jalen Brown for the Celtics. One that I think is really cool, Kate Cunningham for the Pistons made it. He's had a great year. Former Oklahoma State Cowboy. If the Thunder aren't playing or if they play later, usually I try to tune into a Pistons game because he's a good watch, which is not something you would say the last 5 years. But another one that's interesting, Tyler Hero for the Heat made it. And then lastly, Pascal Siakam for the Indiana Pacers to pair with Brunson, Mitchell, Karl Anthony Towns, Tatum, and Giannis. So there's your Eastern Conference team. They're not going to be, we can get into the format here in a minute. The format isn't going to be East and West, so it's not like they're going to be divided up amongst 3 teams. So I think the biggest controversy is there are 2 guards that they talked about on the show. One played right after in the TNT game. Trae Young, who I said leading the league in assists. And then LaMelo Ball is one that has great counting stats. He's on a bad team, though. He gets hurt a lot. He almost got, based off of, I'd have to pull it up, but based off of the All-Star voting for starters, he was 3rd. Like, he almost was starting. And then didn't make it from the coaches.
I mean, that's just tough.
It is, but again, bad
fan
team,
favorite, but,
injuries.
I mean, it kind of tells you he's a fan favorite, but not maybe the best.
Well, he's not impacting winning.
Well,
his team's bad. So yeah, I think Hero has had a great year for the Heat, keeping them at least, floating on water or treading water while the Jimmy Butler thing ends up however it ends up. But Damian Lillard, I mean, he's been fine. And I just don't know if the Bucks deserve 2 All-Stars. But this also might be like a grandfather. I think it was like his 10th or 11th All-Star appearance.
Yeah. Is it his first on the East side?
No, he got in last year.
Oh, he did. Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of those, that situation where, like Steph and LeBron and Kevin.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think the Bucks should have gotten 2. I think Trae Young should have gotten in over him. You can call me a biased person because he went to Oklahoma, but I just think he's been the engine for his team. They played well. They played well into the NBA Cup, which is a made-up thing, obviously. And this just further solidifies that because a player that was on a team that played well in it, they don't get recognized. But yeah, there's your Eastern and Western Conference All-Stars. The format that they're doing this year, they're switching to basically like a round robin situation, like a little tournament where they have a Rising Stars, which is rookies and sophomores in the NBA. That'll be Friday night of All-Star weekend. They play like a bracket format where there's they're divided up amongst 3 teams, and then there's a G League team. Well, I think actually they just divided, like there's a draft between the rookies, sophomores, and the G League players, and then they play that. Whoever wins that tournament will then move on, and they will basically do the same thing and do this round robin format or bracket play where the TNT guys are going to be the GMs of the team. So next Thursday, I don't think Ernie. It's Shaq, Charles Barkley, Kenny the Jet, Smith, and then there's one other. Let me see if I can find it real quick. No. But they're going to draft the teams.
Gotcha.
So, and then we went over it a pod or two ago, but Mark Daignault, because he is the head coach of the top record in the West, along with one of his assistants, and then a Cavs coach, Kenny Atkinson, and an assistant, will coach the four. They'll be divided up amongst the four teams.
It'll be really interesting to see the approach Mark takes to, if he's going to be like, let's win this, or it's going to be more like, you guys
he just
do
sits
whatever
back.
you want.
Well, the question is, will there be a Thunder player on his team?
I hope he gets dubbed. Do you think he's going to stand up and squint the whole time like he does that?
Just sit there and like chew his gum.
Yeah,
and then like look up at the jumbotron.
Yeah,
trying to figure out if he should.
That I would really like.
Yeah, it's still really cool that he's going to get to do that. Let's see, this isn't pulling up for me, but yeah, they'll do the draft next Thursday on the TNT show, and then All-Star Weekend starts Valentine's Day, February 14th. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. There's only going to be this makes sense. There's only going to be 3 NBA All-Star teams. So they only need 3 GMs, and then the 4th team is the team coming out of the the Rising Stars. So they'll do that.
It's Carson Wallace from the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, Chris is referencing when they released the Rising Stars lineup. I mean, there's like in the NBA now, there's so many foreign players. I mean, you have Victor Wembanyama. That name was spelt right. Zachary Risachet. Like all of these names are spelt correctly. And then you have Cason Wallace, and they could not get his name right. They said it was Carson Wallace of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
He's on a Rising Stars team, or is going to be. I don't think they've drafted either.
Yeah, he will be in the game. They have not drafted yet, which will be super cool. Really good, cool honor for him, especially because he was there last year too. If Chet was healthy, he would have been eligible to play in that because even though it's his 3rd year since he got drafted, his rookie year was last year. Mm-hmm. So hopefully this is the last All-Star weekend we don't see Chet at for a long time. But it's we're ramping up towards some Chet practice videos that are going to get me very excited
about that. Yeah.
But yeah, All-Star game coming up. Really cool that the Thunder are going to have 2 players. Shea obviously was no doubt. Dub getting in. I actually went back and listened tonight before we recorded to our last Sooner or Later, and we did. Will Dub be an All-Star this year? And we both said later. So we're both wrong.
Oh, well, I'm happy to be wrong about that one.
We both said we wouldn't have been surprised, but we thought it would be either by the skin of the teeth or like an injury replacement thing.
Right. Yeah.
So shout out to Dub and Shea and Mark and Cason and whichever assistant Mark decides to take with him to San Francisco. So lastly, wrapping up tonight, we're going to bring back that segment Sooner or Later. I got some questions for Chris. He does not know what these questions are. So you're getting a raw reaction from Chris. And it's not going to, each one's kind of has its own time frame, Chris. So I'll tell you what time frame you tell me sooner or later.
Sure.
On these next things. We talked about it on the last pod. Sooner or later, in terms of 10 losses for the Thunder, do they win 40 games? Now they have to win 3 straight games to get to 40 before 10.
I'm gonna say they don't do it. I think that means later. I don't know.
They get 40 wins after or later than they get 10.
10 losses. Yes.
Okay.
I think they've played some weird games. I mean, obviously this team is capable of winning 3 in a row. They won 15 in a row. So I don't know. It becomes much harder, after losing that game to the Warriors.
They're all at home. That is what they have going for them.
Yeah, totally.
So we'll see. And I don't know. The Kings haven't been playing just fantastic the last couple games. Obviously, there's some turmoil with their point guard telling the team, trade me. I'm not coming back after free agency, which isn't even next year. It's the year after.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He's not a free agent at the end of this year. It's the end of next year. But yeah, I think that's a safe bet. But I'm just switch. I think they're going to win 3 straight. I think they're going to get to 40 before 10. They'll be 40-9. That's my projection and prediction all in one. Next, we're going to go to the Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox, as we've kind of hinted at, has told his team that he wants to be traded. His agent did. Basically, he's trying to say, hey, I'm doing you a favor. Trade me now while my value's higher because I'm at least under contract through the rest of this year and next.
Nice guy.
The trade deadline is a week from today, February 6th. Chris, sooner or later, De'Aaron Fox gets traded by the trade deadline. Is it this year, or is he getting traded in the offseason, or they're riding this out and he's a king until he's a free agent? Does he get traded before next week?
I know nothing about the Kings organization and how they run things. So I could get on and say, well, the Kings are such a strong organization or such a weak organization that they're just going to hold on to any value. And then,
people would believe you if you said they were weak.
Okay,
Kings are not that well ran.
Okay. Then I think it's not good. I think they're going to wait till the summer to try to trade him. I think it'll be around the draft where he'll get the boot to somewhere else.
Especially because they had been playing well. They're back into the play-in hunt. They're one of the top 10 seeds. If this had happened a month and a half or 2 months ago, whenever they fired Mike Brown, that would have made sense.
Yeah.
And then they you would think the hope is, and it's something in the NBA. You never want to be in the middle. You either want to be tanking for the top talent or you want to be competing for a championship. Right. If you're in the middle, you're dead. It's just a pointless season. And the Kings are kind of there. But the issue is they've been so bad for so long. Now that they have any inkling of success, I think they're going to have a very hard time letting go of it and restarting.
I think that is a really solid point. I think they're going to try to hold on to any success they can.
Well, and the issue is if it's not, and I'll say I don't think they trade him next week. I don't. Because there's not he's saying trade me now. He's more so saying hey, I'm probably not re-signing. But the issue would be if they go out and trade him, instead of tearing everything down, go trade Sabonis, go trade DeRozan, Malik Monk's on the team. They have good pieces that other people would trade for. I think they would trade Fox and try to get role players and try to do something with their core. And it just not be, they'd be like the Chicago Bulls of the Western Conference.
Right.
Where they're always the 10th seed and that's it.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think he gets traded. I'm going to say later as well, but the Sacramento Kings have to be one of the worst franchises to be a fan of in the NBA.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Staying with the trade deadline, moving on. Sooner or later, Chris, by the trade deadline next week, the Thunder make a trade that impacts their rotation. Not draft picks. Truly, they either they trade for someone that changes up their rotation.
Later. I don't think they do it. I don't think anything to mess with this rotation. I don't think they're going to do unless they get Cam Johnson for nothing. I don't see it happening.
I agree. And again, after a game like last night, it's easy to say, go trade for Cam Johnson. He's a 3-point shooter. Cam Johnson, I'm sure, has gone 0 for 6 from 3 several times in his NBA career.
Sure. This year, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I agree with you. We're a week away. It'll be interesting to see what comes out between now and then. Nothing will come out about what the Thunder are doing. It never does.
Pretty top secret organization.
Yeah. Again, I think they make some kind of trade with they take a set of picks to get better picks down the line. And then lastly, we're only going to do 4 this evening. Last one. And we're moving into the softball world.
Uh-oh. I'm going to take a guess and say later. But go ahead.
Okay. That's it tonight. That's Chris's answer. Women's softball. Sooner or later. This year, 2025, is the year that a team not named the Oklahoma Sooners wins the College World Series.
Oh, wait. Let me back. Did you change the question because you knew what I said?
No.
Oh, you
That's
didn't?
no.
I don't. I mean, I didn't expect him to win 4 in a row. I don't expect him to win 5 in a row. Anything they do this season, I think is just gravy. So I would say if they go and win it, I'll cheer really hard. If they don't, I'll cheer really hard anyway. So
Yeah, it's very safe to say that they will not win it. That is a
Right.
safe bet. That was a safe bet the last 4 years, thinking they wouldn't win it. But they got some transfers coming in. They have some freshmen. They have 3 or 4 people back from last year. They had so many seniors that were just the best senior class I think softball's
Right.
ever seen, which OU fans are very familiar with. I don't really need to get into it.
Yeah,
But
shout out Sydney and Shay.
Chris's old
All of
coworkers.
That's right.
Chris's old coworker. Chris has some
That's right.
inside connections with the OU softball team.
Not anymore.
At one point before
At one
the
point.
world ended. I asked that because
2012.
the softball rankings have been released over the last couple of days. So OU's third, not only in the national rankings, but also in the SEC preseason poll, behind Texas and Florida.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I guess winning 4 in a row is not enough to just think they might do it again.
You don't get the benefit of the doubt with 4, maybe 5. Maybe 5.
5, maybe they'll just start expecting it.
And since we are an Oklahoma-based podcast, I will give a shout out. Oklahoma State was 4th in the national rankings, so there's another softball school for you. But yeah, there's your second iteration of Sooner or Later. Mainly just some trade talk because that's coming up, and a positive with the OU athletic program is the softball program. So we're mixing it up, giving some positive vibes to OU athletics. But yeah, with that, I think we're going to wrap it up tonight. Chris, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I will give my prediction for the Super Bowl. I think the Chiefs win 3rd in a row.
I was going to save mine for the beginning of next week's pod.
Well, cut that.
Cut.
I'm joking. We'll talk about it.
We'll get into the depth, the depths of that prediction next week. But Chris has Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
It's like an onion.
Yeah, onions, and you're gonna have to wait for my prediction next week. But appreciate y'all. We'll catch you next time, and see you.